Hello everybody and welcome to my discussion. I'm going to be discussing a famous landmark from the Revolutionary period. Now a lot of people would talk about places like Independence Hall, Boston Commons, places like that, but a lot of people don't understand that that's not really where the Revolution was born. The Revolution was actually born out of places like the local taverns. This is where a lot of people got together, discuss their social and political viewpoints and their discontentment with England at the time. And this is where people like Samuel Adams and Dr. Warren discussed their strategies and their ideas for what to do about this issue they had with England. The Green Dragon Tavern in particular was one in Boston, where it's actually labeled with the distinction as the birthplace or the home of the Sons of Liberty, because this is the particular tavern where all of them met. It was actually owned by the Masonic Lodge, of which Warren and Paul Revere were members, and they were low lit. All these taverns were dimly lit, low ceiling places, but the really cool thing about it was anybody could go in there. People like Alexander Hamilton would mix it up with common folk, people, just local business people, local workers, local farmers. And Alexander Hamilton actually stated in his journal that he was insulted when he first went in, and the common way that they would address him. Instead of saying, "Hello, Dr. Hamilton," they would say, "Alex, how are you? What's going on today?" The Green Dragon Tavern is also very famous for a particular event that happened during the Revolution, and that would be the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. This was the starting point of Paul Revere's ride. He left the Green Dragon Tavern when he was alerted that the British were coming, and he probably did not say the British are coming, because most people in the colonies at the time were British. So they would have assumed that their neighbor was coming over for dinner. So he probably said that the regulars were coming. And he did not likely ride through the streets of Boston, but he went from tavern to tavern to tavern, because this was the place where all the militia were hanging out. They were hanging out discussing their strategies in these taverns, which may explain why Paul Revere never did finish his midnight ride, because he probably stopped off for a pint or two at each tavern. So he may not have been able to ride his horse at the end of his ride. But a lot of people don't know that another famous founder, John Hancock, was a rum runner himself, and he was supplying the rum for these taverns, particularly the Green Dragon, from his smuggling business. The Boston Tea Party was an idea that was discussed and actually born in the Green Dragon Tavern. This was the place where they discussed their ideas about going and throwing the tea overboard, which actually was an idea that had been mulling around for a while, because a decade earlier the British put a heavy tax on molasses. Molasses is the main ingredient for rum. This was the first thing that angered the colonists, but they were not about to throw their molasses overboard, because no molasses, no rum. So it was a lot more palatable to the colonists to throw tea overboard, because they were still smuggling in tea from the French, who were not taxing the tea, which is one of the reasons why the British taxed theirs, because they were angry that there was smuggling operations going on. But a lot of these ideas were born in the local taverns, and in particular the Green Dragon Tavern. Now the Green Dragon Tavern is no longer there. It is replaced, and there is a facsimile, so to speak, a little bit down the street from there. It's not in the same place it used to be, but it's still memorial to the original Green Dragon Tavern, the home of the Sons of Liberty.